Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I can see.
And I'm Gary. And today we're going to review and discuss John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness. Iain, give us the synopsis.
Well, the story follows John Trent, played by Sam Neill, who's an insurance investigator. He's been hired by Arcane Publishing to find their biggest selling writer, Sutter Kane, who seems to have disappeared off the map. As John starts to investigate where exactly Sutter has gone, he starts to question reality and his own existence.
This comes from writer Michael DeLuca, and after he had wrote the script for In the Mouth of Madness and passed it on to John Carpenter, Carpenter himself was like, I don't know about this. So, plus I'm kind of busy making these other films, so about 5 years later or so, John Carpenter came back to the script, did a couple of rewrites with DeLuca, and then decided he was going to make and direct In the Mouth of Madness. And so John Carpenter chose this film to conclude his Apocalypse trilogy, which started with The Thing and then moved on to The Prince of Darkness before now, In the Mouth of Madness, which really is very heavily inspired by one of my favourite authors, H.P. Lovecraft. The title of the film in itself is also a direct rip from H.P. Lovecraft's story In the Mountains of Madness. Also, within the film, all of the Sutter Kane novels are all references to H.P. Lovecraft stories.
Do you read Sutter Kane?
I remember the first time I saw this film, and it was literally the last hour of the film, which I'd caught on TV, and I was spellbound by what I was seeing, what I was watching. I'd never really seen any other film tackle these sort of elements and have this creepy atmosphere and this existential exploration that would come towards the end of the film. Just sort of blew my mind, along with, of course, John Carpenter's amazing rock soundtrack that goes with the film, or doesn't go with the film.
Me, completely biased. It's John Carpenter. I mean, I'm a massive fan of his, and so I was kind of just eating up every single film that he was putting out. You know, starting with Halloween, all the way into Escape from New York, all the way up to John Carpenter's Vampires and Ghosts of Mars, and you come across In the Mouth of Madness, and you're just like, well, it's got John Carpenter on it. It's gonna be fucking good, isn't it? And it is.
Well, interestingly, when this film came out, it bombed. You know, and that's the thing. Almost every John Carpenter film, when it's come out, has bombed.
Yeah.
Big Trouble in Little China, The Thing, In the Mouth of Madness. You know, the list goes on.
Yeah.
And I can only feel sorry for Carpenter. I wish all of his fans had been alive when his films came out, because that seems to be the case.
Yeah, but that's the thing. To be a fan of Carpenter's movies, you build up this cult following. You know, there are all these amazing directors out there that have won Oscars and have done great cinematography and all that other fucking shit. But Carpenter, you know, he has a vision, and his vision will not be deterred by influences from outside or actors telling him that they don't like the certain scenes and things like that. He's like, no, I saw how I'm going to film this scene. This is going to be how I film it.
Well, interestingly, this is his second time working with Sam Neill, and Sam Neill had already been a director at this point, and Sam Neill even helped collaborate with Carpenter on how to shoot some of the scenes. Also, interestingly, John Carpenter also collaborated with the music for the second time in this film with a composer who he'd also worked on a previous film.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. But Sam Neill, you know, at this point he'd already done Jurassic Park. And Jurassic Park had, you know, blown Steven Spielberg. Oh, Steven Spielberg was already big, but, you know, Sam Neill's already appeared now, and it's just like, oh my God, he's an amazing actor. So when you see him at the beginning of this film in a straitjacket, being pulled into an asylum, attacking the people around him, and then being thrown in his cell, you immediately get that feeling of, this guy is insane. This guy has completely lost it. What is wrong with him? I mean, I love that scene when David Warner turns up, Dr. Wren, to talk to John Trent. And he's there, and he's like drawn all over his body, crosses all over the wall. And, Dr. Wren's just like, don't you want to get out? And John Trent's like, no, I'm fine. I'm fine in here. And so you're like, wait, hold on. Is he insane? Does a madman really want to stay in his cell, or does he want to leave?
Or does he know something that we don't?
That's it. And you get that voice from Jürgen Prochnow. You don't realize it's him, but you hear this voice just say to Sam Neill, this isn't the end. It's only the beginning. And then the film starts.
This is a rotten way to end it.
This is not the ending. You haven't read it yet.
And it, like you said, it's like reading a H.P. Lovecraft book where most of the main characters in his books have gone insane by things that they've dealt with in the story. So then you follow John into the film and start to unravel what's going on.
I really like the introduction to John Trent's character. The fact that he's already quizzing someone. He's an insurance investigator, and this person's filed a claim which said his warehouse is burnt down.
Yeah.
But of course, he's not just an insurance investigator. He also seems to be a PI, because he has all of these images and all this evidence to back up the fact that this claim is fraudulent. And you see this guy sweating away.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, that's good. We've set up this John Trent character. He's smart ass. He's really good at his job, and more importantly, he's a total skeptic.
Yes.
And so when he sat down at this restaurant talking to his agent or talking to somebody, and I love the shot where in the background you can just see this crazy person with an axe just slowly walking his way up to the window whilst they continue their conversation before breaking it and then being shot by the cops, even though there's no blood splats or no visible bullet wounds.
Well, yeah, but that's a trope of Carpenter, isn't it? He doesn't rely on blood or gore to scare you. It's the scene. It's the way his camera angle works, because that guy, like you said, he's walking up. You can see all the other pedestrians running all over the place. And Sam Neill and his friend Robbie are just talking about this Sutter Kane. And I've got this other job that I need you to do. Have you ever read Sutter Kane? No, I don't read Sutter Kane. I have no idea who you're talking to. And then the axe hits the glass and the guy steps in and he says to John Trent, do you read Sutter Kane? And you're like, oh, well, okay. Why? What's so important about this guy? And he's got those weird eyes. Something's gone weird about his eyes, and he's all ready to kill Sam Neill's character, and he gets shot by the cops. Now, in later reflection, obviously not going into spoilers yet, you realise that in a weird way those cops were placed there, But later on, John Trent would go to Arcane Publishing and would start to question about the job and why they need to find Sutter Kane. And it turns out that the guy that attacked them with the axe was Kane's agent.
Witnessed the shooting, I believe.
That lunatic with the axe, that was Kane's agent?
I love the comedy moment where Trent just goes, well, he better get better representation.
Yeah.
It's just like...
I love the fact as well, you've got Charlton Heston there.
Yes, classic actor.
Charlton Heston, classic actor, done a lot of good jobs. And him, he's only got really, I'd say a small part, but quite integral part as the head of Arcane Publishing. And so the way he just kind of, Sam Neill's good actor, but Charlton Heston seems to hold the screen even more by saying, look, I've got this job and you're going to take this job. You're going to do it. You're going to find me this stuff and you're going to bring it back to me. And so he leaves Trent to kind of start the investigation. So Trent starts to go out and buy a couple of the books and starts to read it. And you keep hearing through the news reports and over the radio that there seems to be mass hysteria gripping the country because people are going mad for the next Sutter Kane book. They are attacking bookstores trying to pre-order the books, and the stores aren't able to do it, or they're trying to buy every book that they can. And it just, you just think, oh, it's just fans gone mad. But then you see it on the TV where there's armed riot police protecting bookstores while people are trying to break in, and you're like, okay, that's That's a bit weird.
Don't know. For me, it's kind of like John Carpenter predicted the future of mass consumerism.
Yes,
when
yeah.
you see people camping out for days on end, waiting for the next video game or the next must-have toy for the holiday season. You know,
Yeah.
It's
Black
just
Friday
Black
sales.
Friday sales. Yeah,
Yeah.
just the craziness that would ensue.
Now relax, Robbie. Look, it's a scam. Of course it's a scam.
For the most part, before John really goes into his investigation, we are just following him. And Sam Neill, I don't know if it's Sam Neill or the direction from John Carpenter, or like you said at the beginning, the collaboration from the two of them. But you start to just get, attached to this Trent character. He's reading the books at home and he's starting to have nightmares. I love that little bit where he's writing something down and he's got ink on his fingers and he wipes it on his eyes and then he kind of looks at it like, fuck. And so it's a kind of little comedy element, like, oh, he's a normal guy like us. He's just stepping into something that he might not completely understand.
I do like the creepiness and just the setup for some of the sequences in his nightmare, where we see him in reality, we think,
Yeah.
and we see a cop beating a graffiti artist, and then he has the same recurring nightmare, but the officer has a very deformed face, and then, of course, in a jump scare, he wakes up, and then the police officer is sat right next to him, and so he jump scare, and he wakes up again. You're like, okay, the creepiness, we're unbalancing this character very slowly, but very carefully.
That jump scare reminds me of the jump scare from the end of Prince of Darkness, where he wakes up in the bed.
Yeah.
John Carpenter does jump scares better than he does blood and gore.
Well,
I always love the shadows that seem to pass in front of the camera when you're actually concentrating on something in the background.
Yeah. I have to say, this film was criticised for its use of jump scares cheap jump scares. And I'm going to say, jump scares, I very rarely get caught off guard by jump scares. And in this film, I will say, after like my 50th viewing of this film, the jump scares are annoying. And I found, as I've gotten older, jump scares in all movies get quite annoying because they're all usually fake outs.
Yeah.
But this one, I guess if I'm being nice, it does ride the lightning really quite fantastic. Where some of the jump scares, if you're a fresh audience, they might catch you off guard.
Yeah,
But-
it's the unhinging, like you said, it's the unhinging of John Trent's character, because he spends so much time telling you that nobody controls his strings, and he is forever looking for the bullshit. So he's a skeptic to absolutely everything. That when these things scare him or happen to him, he's questioning what's going on, and so you are in yourself questioning what's going on as well.
Yeah. I do like the scene where he's either gone back to his dream or he's gone back to the location where all the Sutter Kane posters were scattered around.
Yeah.
Before coming back and deciding to cut up all of his books. I've seen this film a lot of times, and
Yeah.
so when I see him cutting up that book, and I'm like, wow, he doesn't really care about the lines, he's just getting the rough shapes.
Yeah.
Yet when he's got all the pieces in front of him, they're all meticulously cut to detail to fold together to make this, what he then decides is a map.
Well, he follows the red lines. He notices on the front cover that there are these weird red lines that flow around that aren't part of the artwork. They just seem to be add-ons. And yeah, it's kind of weird that he cuts it all out and then goes, yeah, look, Hobbs End is there.
I wonder how long it took him to go through all the different maps that were the same size as the printout of those covers.
The red dot is Hobbs End. It's not on any real map, but look at this. The two line up. Like it or not, Kane's book covers place Hobbs End right in the middle of New England.
And so he decides that he's going to go to Hobbs End, and Charlton Heston's character decides to send along Linda Stiles, played by Julie Carmen. And Linda Stiles is the editor for Sutter Kane's books. Charlton Heston's character is just like, you need to go with John so that you can get the proper manuscript. And so they go on this really long drive to find Hobbs End. And it's only when John has gone to sleep that the weird shit starts to really manipulate Linda's mind. She notices a boy riding on a bike late at night, and then the boy comes back, but he's like 100 years old. He gets hit by the car, and then he's on the floor, and then all of a sudden he's back on the bike again, and he rides off, and you see Linda's face like, that's not right.
No.
You know?
And as an audience member, now you know that everything that's happening in this film is actually happening, because up to this point you've heard the strange radio transmissions about this craziness that's happening, but most of the weird stuff seems to be happening to John Trent.
Yeah.
While he's asleep, when we see this weird stuff happening to Linda, we know that it's not fake. Instantly, the audience is privy to this, so now we will watch John Trent wander around Hobbs End, trying to figure out, is this all a setup? Is this all a play? Are these all actors? And this is a publicity stunt just to drive the sales of this new book.
Look.
Stars, you're fantastic. You found it.
Yeah, I love the little twist as well, where Linda actually says to him, we were going to set you up. We did have this whole plan of manipulating you, so that we could boost the sales and make a lot more money. But this isn't it. Sutter Kane never made it to the place we actually set up. Hobbs End isn't supposed to exist. And, John Trent's just like, well, if you're right, then if I look out this window, there's going to be a giant black church. And he opens up the window and there's a barn. And you're like, oh, yeah, it's fake. And she goes, no, it's out this window. And he opens the window and there's that big black church. And the beautiful thing is that church is real. And I don't mean real as in they build it out of set. That's an actual fucking church that they decided that priests aren't allowed to use anymore. And I'm like, no fucking shit, there's elder gods in the fucking basement.
Well, shit, I want more priests back in there.
Yeah.
Originally, there was an old stone church built on this site in 1788, but the black church swallowed up the old sanctuary the way it has swallowed our minds.
One of my favourite effects in the film is the picture, the painting that's behind them.
Yeah.
Just watching it change and watching Styles sort of freak out as John continues to talk to the receptionist. Just watching the picture change. And then, of course, throughout the rest of the film, the picture will continue to change until the two characters are just these deformed, tentacle tree-like creatures.
Yeah.
And just like, it's so weird and so fucked up. But I love the fact that the skepticism in him, he's looking behind the picture to see if there's anything that's changing it.
Yeah, checking the paint to see if it's still wet or anything. And that freaky scene reminds me of the Witches movie, where the little girl gets stuck in a painting.
Yeah. And
then over the years she starts to grow old, and so there's like a hint of dark magic in this as well as in the Witches, and that little old lady. Oh my God! Okay, I know John Carpenter does kind of horror well, but that little old lady is fucking freaky. She runs this hotel, and John and Linda say, well, this Pickman Hotel is from one of the books, and John's like, yeah, but the little old lady, she murders her husband with an axe and turns him into coleslaw, and so he's trying to keep catching the old lady out, and there's that scene where she stood behind reception, and her husband is handcuffed to her leg, naked.
Hush.
And you're just like, what?
It's the fact that she kicks him while he's down there, and she sort of looks back innocently back at John like, how can I help you? Yeah. And it's at this point that Styles has done a runner back to that creepy old church to try and find Sutter Kane, finally, and have a confrontation with him. Of course, this would be the second time that she would have seen him, because John and Linda did originally go to that creepy church only to be scared off by a bunch of Doberman, which also scared off the rest of the townspeople that turned up.
Yeah.
We also had Wilhelm von Homburg.
He's the Carpathian from Ghostbusters 2.
Exactly. And so, if Sutter Kane can scare off Vigo.
Yeah.
You know you're dealing with something quite nasty here.
Yeah. I love that whole little extra setup as well with the kids.
Yes.
You know, the kids are being infected by this evil, and they in turn are infecting the townspeople. And you realize that whatever Sutter Kane is kind of creating or building from his book is starting in Hobbs End and will then spread out to the rest of the world. And you're constantly wanting John to be the hero, to find the big thing, to defeat the big evil, and to get out of there. But every corner he takes, every turn that he makes, it just seems to be one horrific incident after another. I mean,
well, the skepticism within him is still riding high. It's only really when he wanders back down into the basement to find Mrs. Pickman, who has tentacle things coming out of her body.
Yeah.
Her husband is being sliced to pieces by this axe, and she's making these horrible noises.
Yeah.
And that's the moment when John Trent goes, oh shit, this is not fake anymore, I'm out of it. Well, actually, he still says that it's special effects and prosthetics and actors and animatronics, which some of it actually was. Greg Nicotero, who is one of my favourite makeup artists, still working today on the likes of The Walking Dead, has made some of the best special effects in movie history. In this one, some of them don't quite work. Even John Carpenter said some of them don't quite work, especially the Miss Pickman. Originally, it was a man in a suit. Carpenter didn't like it, so they decided it was going to be a miniature, an animatronic miniature.
Yeah.
And I can't help but think of John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah.
When you see these monsters, and even though the special effects team deliberately went out of their way to make these creatures nothing like the Thing creatures, and of course inspired by the undescribable creatures out of Lovecraft. And I think they did a very good job. And of course, you only ever get to see glimpses of the creatures.
Yes.
And so in parts they look fucking awesome, and then in other parts just a little bit lackluster. So it does vary from creature to creature.
See, that's what I always find the difficulty is when you talk about H.P. Lovecraft, the way he details it of, you know, this creature is undescribable. It's like, well, how do you transfer that onto screen?
Well, he has gone into detail about the sliminess or the tentacles, and
yeah.
That's why Cthulhu's image is kind of remained pretty much similar in all of his illustrations.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I mean, you know, with like some of the elder gods, you know, it's better not to see them than to see them.
Well, yeah, because if you see them, you usually end up insane.
Yeah, totally, completely insane. At this point, John has come across Linda again, and she's just completely lost her mind.
Well, she just made out with with Sutter Kane with the deformed back of head.
Yeah, and he's made her read the book, so she's completely gone. And I love that little bit where he walks into the bedroom, and she's behind the door, and you can kind of weirdly see some tentacles, and you can see some weird tentacles underneath the door. And then she comes out with this giant smile on her face, like she's high or something. And then all of a sudden you just see John Trent go flying through the door, and you're like, get the fuck out of there, man, you know?
He tries. He tries several times.
He tries several times to escape. There's that brilliant part in the bar. I always love that part in the bar where he comes across Vigo the Carpathian again.
Simon.
So yeah, and Simon says, "Look, you know, you need to get out of here." And John Trent, "I'm fucking trying, man. I'm fucking trying." And he puts the gun underneath his chin, and John's like, "Don't do that. I can't. He wrote me this way," and he blows his brains out. And you start to really then start to figure where reality and the book, you know, are separate, or have they always been interconnected? And like I said, this brings me back to the part at the beginning with the cop. You know, was that just written in by Sutter Kane to keep John alive? Because when John finally, you know, he tries to escape from the town like 3 or 4 times, and then he fucking crashes his car. And Sutter Kane gets hold of him and says to him, like, "You've been the main character all the way through this. here's my book. You need to deliver it to the rest of the world.
Read it if you don't believe me. See what I have in store for you.
I know what I am.
And Trent's like, fuck that.
Well, it's because he's also told that delivering this manuscript, this finished book, back to the printing press will end the world.
Yeah, this is the
will-
new Holy Bible.
Pretty much.
And I'm now a god. I'm going to go now release them because I can't hold them back anymore. The more new readers that read my book give these creatures more and more power. And is that awesome?
Well, it's part awesome and part unfinished. I don't know. They intended originally for the entire town to get sucked into almost like a portal or into oblivion.
Right,
so
okay.
that the town would disappear. But
Yeah.
It proved too expensive to try and pull off that sort of effect. So to reduce it, they brought it down to the fact that Sutter Kane tears himself open like pages from a book.
Yes, yeah.
Which it partially works and it partially doesn't.
But I like the way it kind of does that weird Star Trek fade. And then the door has been ripped open and you can kind of see the writing on the loose pages that are held out. And then you have Linda reading from the book exactly what John is doing at that time. And, you know, if you've ever read H.P. Lovecraft books or Stephen King books, you know, it's that imagery in your head where, you know, she says, oh, John looked out into the abyss and couldn't bring himself to scream over the horror that he was watching. And you're looking at Sam Neill and you're like, do I want to see it? Because I can kind of believe from his face that whatever he's seeing is fucking terrifying.
Trent stood at the edge of the rip, stared into the illimitable gulf of the unknown, the Stygian world yawning blackly beyond. Trent's eyes refused to close.
I love the fact that John Carpenter is actually friends with Stephen King and even drops his name as a reference in the film
Yeah.
at one point, saying that Sutter Kane even outsells King. And that this also does feel like a Stephen King character that Sutter Kane is.
Yeah. Jürgen Prochnow comes across as this crazy mad scientist with the hair, the look, the voice. I mean, he's very charismatic. But there's this big sense of evil behind him.
He's totally already under the influence of the Elder Gods.
Yeah.
So we never really get to see the real Sutter Kane at all in the film. But it's an amazing sequence where he's told to run back to reality as he knows it.
Yeah.
And we do get to see glimpses of these creatures. And it's a combination of people in suits, animatronics. There's over 30 puppeteers in that one sequence that are chasing after Sam Neill's John Trent. And it's understandable. I mean, I'm going to freeze the image here so that you can see some of the creatures. But the reason why the edits were so quick was because you can see half the puppeteers running behind the monsters.
Yeah.
So having the illusion of just seeing glimpses of them, I mean, it's how Trent would have seen them, just over his shoulder, not really wanting to see them.
Yeah, because obviously if you stop to see them, you will just lose your mind, your brain will lose out.
Some of the creature designs, I think, were quite fantastical and really quite gross. And in some of the behind-the-scenes making of featurettes, you can see some of those monsters and sort of in the studio, and you're like, wow, where was that in the film? But it's hard to see it, which it does work.
Yeah. We finished with Trent getting back to reality, you know, and he keeps he tries to leave the book, it turns up again. He tries to burn it, it turns up again, and then he gets back to Charlton Heston, and Charlton Heston's just like, that's a really great story, but you gave me that book months ago. And Trent's like, what?
Well, what about Linda Stiles? Well, where's she gone?
Well, she never existed. She was written out, and you're like, what? Oh yeah. By the way, the movie will be out next month, and you're like, what?
Well, seriously, yeah. What? Because what happened in this interim of time? It's all gone. The film is great up until the point where he gets back.
No. It's still
and
great.
Then time,
because he's trying to get rid of the book, but the book already exists. So in the book, in the book, it's like a chapter, isn't it? You know, you finish one chapter, Trent is on the bus, he's talking to Sutter Kane, and then you go, right, okay, now chapter 12, he's in the office. So
But what happened in between those pages?
Nothing. That's the beauty of it.
But nearly a year has passed.
Has it?
Well, yeah, because he explains how the book's been released and how all this time and.
But Sutter Kane has written it.
Exactly. Yes.
It's gone. He has already planned Trent's mission, the way he's trying to not do it.
Trent has the realization that he's that's sending him insane, that he's not a real person.
Yeah.
That he never existed. He only exists because Sutter Kane invented him.
Yeah.
Designed him down to his history and his character.
And that's the beauty of it. The whole world, kind of, at the moment, the whole world in which Trent is in is just part of Sutter Kane's imagination. And it's just all there. And to stop Trent from trying to do things that he thinks he's doing, he's just going to get the book published.
But it makes a great story having the skeptic try and overthrow the old gods, and having the old gods basically give him the false hope of being able to overcome it, when really the end of the world is in full effect.
Yes. Yeah. It's all gone to shit out there.
It's Kane's story. And it'll spread with each new reader. That's how it gets its power.
What about the people who don't read?
There's a movie.
This whole film is a favourite scene. I really like the mystery part, the solving of the clues, if you will, of trying to figure out where Hobbs End is, the disappearance of Sutter Kane, the skeptic slowly going insane, realising that the events that are happening to him is very much a part of the new reality.
Yeah.
I think so. Finding the books, finding the map, going to Hobbs End and having the encounter with the paintings and Miss Pickman, all of those are my favourite parts. All of the setup is really good.
Yeah.
My absolute favourite scene though is Miss Pickman. It's the scenes I remember the most. The sweet old lady with her husband handcuffed to her ankle that she then cuts up with an axe.
Yeah.
And the creature design. Just that always stuck with me. That was the moment where I was like, "What am I watching? I've not seen anything like this before."
Yeah.
And also, the scene where Trent's on his way back and he's in the bus and the old lady's just gibbering at him, and he's just like, "I'm out. I'm free. I don't ever have to. I'm done with Sutter Kane." And then he wakes up to everything being turned blue, which. You can also look back at most of the possessed or changed characters. They all have blue eyes as well.
Yeah.
So it's almost like Sutter Kane's influence has been there right from the start.
I love that line he says.
Did I ever tell you my favorite color was blue?
Me, John Carpenter. Fucking loved the whole entire film. I really love the creepiness that goes along with the film.
I'd definitely say this film is more creepy than it is scary.
Yeah, it's definitely creepy, and like I said, it's just like the feeling you get when you sit down late at night to read a Stephen King book or H.P. Lovecraft book. You want to be scared, but it's the slow build up of the tingle on the back of your neck, not the just complete jump out.
Well, that's the thing I like when Trent says over the phone when he has that reaction to reading the book, he's just like, oh, maybe it's just in the way, the style of its writing, or it gets under your skin after a while. And that is the case with a lot of good horror novels.
I love the weird kid on the bike. He it's just, like I said, it's really creepy, the whole drive, the way he disappears into the darkness, the way he turns up again, he's like 100 years old. The way he's kind of telling people he won't let me go, and then he's back on the bike again and he rides off, and then it's later on with Linda where she's kind of on the back doing that weird arm thing, and they kind of just look at John as he's driving past and just give him a smile. It's like, what the fuck? The old lady, oh god, the first time you meet her, the fact that she's got her husband handcuffed to her leg, and then the whole tentacle axe fucking scene in the basement, that's all fucked up too. I love the scene where John tries to escape the town with Linda, and he stops the car because he sees the weird kid on the bike, and she comes out of the car and she's all contorted and her head's the wrong way round, and the giggle that she's doing, and she's playing with him, and the sound of the bones, that's all fucked up. I love the my favourite colour is blue as well. That's just another weird scene. Sam Neill's reaction when he wakes up. He's just gone insane. I mean, how would you react if you woke up and everything was just like one colour? You know, it's like Angry Red Planet all over again.
Well, it's the fact that he thought he had escaped Hobbs End. He thought it was all just one mass hallucination.
Yeah.
He's still like, okay, I'm back in reality. And it's just like,
Yeah, but I like the way that Sutter Kane's just like, I'm a god now. You can't get away from me. And my last favourite scene, and it's just always a cool scene, is when Sam Neill turns up at the bookstore at the end, and he's just looking in the window, and the guy comes walking out, and he says to him, do you like the book? And the kid goes, I love it. And Sam Neill pulls out this fucking axe and goes, well, this isn't going to be much of a surprise, is it? And just wallops him. And I'm like, you've just read a book like, you know, Gary has just come out of Waterstones carrying his book, and Iain's just axed him to death. What? Fuck!
huh?
Like the book?
I love it.
Good. Then this shouldn't come as a surprise.
I absolutely recommend John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness. This is one of my favourite John Carpenter movies. It's really creepy. It has some great cinematography, some great set pieces. It really gets under your skin, just like it does the characters. Like I said, there's a few lousy jump scares. Some of them are effective. I really like the monster design. I really like the mystery, and I really like the skeptic sort of battling against everything. All of the actors in the film, especially Sam Neill, deliver great performances. I kind of think the actress playing Linda Stiles, she just feels a little bit wooden, but I don't know whether that's her character.
Yeah.
Also, we have John Glover, who's one of my favourite... he's not a favourite actor, but I really like the movies that he's in, like Gremlins 2.
Yeah.
Scrooged, yeah. I was also surprised that Hayden Christensen has one of his early film roles in the Mouth of Madness as the paper boy at the end. I was like, is that... It is!
It's Darth Vader.
But yeah, definitely recommend In the Mouth of Madness. I have more fun watching this even after the 20th, 30th time I've seen this film. If I have a friend who's never seen it, it's one of those films I go, take this, watch it. You'll be surprised.
It's fucking John Carpenter. I mean, if I have to tell you to go and watch John Carpenter movies, I'm wasting my breath. You should already be watching John Carpenter movies. You should already have all of his films. He's one of the most astounding directors I love watching every time. I've seen In the Mouth of Madness a bazillion times, and I'll probably watch it a bazillion times more just because it's John Carpenter. I could go through the list of all of his films, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to concentrate on In the Mouth of Madness. Sam Neill is brilliant. David Warner is brilliant. John Glover is brilliant. Charlton Heston is brilliant. The little old lady with the fucking tentacles and the axe, she's brilliant. The little kid that turns up and says, you're my mommy. It's mommy's day. She's fucking brilliant. And alright, Hayden Christensen does a great job as a paper boy as well. But yeah, definitely you should watch it.
Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Do you want some too, buddy?